Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another segment of You'll Go Down in History for either a good reason or a bad reason. Last week, we took a look at two such characters in the Bible that went down for a not so good choice and a good choice. Today, we're going to do the same, except today, we're going to look at two women.
Yeah, women who chose to use their powers
Woo!
for good and for evil.
So let's start with evil and take a look at this week's not so good choice. Delilah. Delilah is going to
She's
use.
still on the radio.
I don't know if she is still on the radio, but as soon as you sang that, I said the name and said it in my head. Delilah is going to use her power and her persuasion for evil.
Yes, so
Not a good choice.
our friend Delilah goes with another famous character that you've all heard of, Samson. We always hear about Samson and Delilah. Samson, as you know, was known for his strength, was known for being a very faithful follower of God, but he also had a wandering eye and heart, and so...
Yeah, I was going to say, when you look at all of them, thank goodness there's forgiveness because we are all guilty of sin, including Samson. And that's where this story starts, because Samson decides to travel, and Samson's going to fall in love with a woman who is not his wife, and he is going to fall in love with Delilah. And the Philistines heard about this, and because the Philistines were enemies, guess what? They were going to talk to Delilah to get her to figure out what the source of Samson's strength was. Because if you're getting close and he likes her, all she's got to do is say, hey.
And they see this as their in to figure out how they can defeat the very strong Samson.
Yeah, because up until now, you could not defeat Samson. He was that strong, that powerful. So Delilah comes to him and says, oh, what's the source of your strength?
What's your secret, handsome?
And he tells her, obviously not the truth, because she tries it and it doesn't work. He's still strong. Then a second time, oh, please, will you tell me? He tells her, again, not true. A third time, he tells her, and guess what? Not so much.
Still not true.
Still strong. So she finally is sick and tired and fed up of being treated this way, being made a fool and mocked because, Samson's, oh yeah, I never tell you. So then she plays the, but you say you love me card and says, how can you say you love me if you won't confide in me, if we can't have that kind of relationship? So Samson falls for temptation of a beautiful woman whom he loves, and gives up the secret to his strength. He says that I'm a Nazarite, and guess what? A razor has never touched my head. That's the source of my strength. So she plays her little tricks on him, gets him to fall asleep in her lap, and then calls someone in to shave his head.
And then he wakes up and realizes that his strength has left him. So Delilah will go down in history for being the one that took down the great Samson. But really, Samson took down himself.
He did.
Because he put his belief, his hope, his faith in his hair.
Yeah.
But when he woke up, God had left him because it wasn't his hair that gave him strength. We knew that it was God. But Delilah played into all of his weaknesses. Delilah tricked him into sharing all of his secrets. And then it was Delilah that was finally able to help get to the bottom of what was the source of Samson's strength. And it wasn't so much his hair, but it was the fact that he put his faith in his hair.
Yeah. Sly little fox, that Delilah. But there is a woman in the Bible who uses her powers for good. Her power, I should say, she doesn't have powers, but uses her power, her influence for good. And that would be the lovely and beautiful Queen Esther.
Queen Esther. And Queen Esther did not start out as a queen. She is not part of a royal line.
In fact, she had to hide who she actually was.
Yeah, she had to hide her nationality. She had to hide how she was brought up, because she was actually adopted by her cousin Mordecai. So she was not part of this tribe. She was not part of this group. But something happens, and the queen passes away, and the king starts to look for a new queen. And so he has the women of town audition to become queen. And Mordecai says, this is your chance to save your people, the Jewish people. So she follows what Mordecai says, and she goes about winning the king's favor and becoming queen.
Yeah, so here you have someone who couldn't reveal who she was or even be proud of who she was, but wanted to save her people. And so she earns the favor and trust of the king. And now that she becomes queen, she can influence the decisions that the king is making against her people. So now she can save her people. She can use her power for good, her influence for good.
Yeah, so when Haman is getting ready to go out and kill all of the Jewish people, she can step in and say, that's not how this works. So instead of choosing to use her powers for evil, she uses her powers to save God's people.
And we all know Esther, and that she went down in history for doing a good thing, because how many of you say Esther and your response is, for such a time as this? And that's exactly what we all say. When we think of Esther, we think of for such a time as this. God is using her in this time and place to save his people for such a time as this.
And then she becomes an example for all of us, that God uses us in times and places and situations for such a time as this, that you get to be the one who gets to share God's goodness and mercy and potentially save his people.
So be like Esther.
Yeah, not Delilah.
Be like Esther. All right, well, join us next week as we flip back to two men, one who makes a good choice and one who doesn't make such a good choice.
But they both go down
in history.
in history.
We'll see you then.